up, come on.
Good day, YouTube. It's Friday. It's time to go home. Before I do that, I want to share with you St. Peter Boys asked if I can make a video about retraining. Since I retrained, that's what I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. I'm also going to talk about special duties jobs. In other words, you leave your job, your main job, for 2 or 3 years, whatever that time period may be, to do something different, and then eventually you go back to your job. There are many options out there. First, I'll begin by saying that the Air Force instruction AFI 36-2626 talks about the retraining program. I've printed out 2 pages with some notes, and the purpose of the retraining program, I'll read it just for a moment, is as Air Force requirements evolve, changes in requirements create inventory imbalances in affected career fields. In other words, sometimes there may be shortages in this career field. However, this career field has just too many people. So the Air Force has to work on correcting those. So if you're a member, let's just say you're a first-term airman. I was a first-term airman and I came in as a firefighter. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me long-term. So I had the option of retraining, and I applied to retrain, and I met with the military personnel section. They told me which jobs had openings, but they also looked at my Asvab scores to ensure that they were going to put me in something that I have a strength in. And personnel administration is something that I have a strength in according to my Asvab scores from 20 years ago, and it made sense to put me in there. They had openings as well. Member applies online, electronically. The AFI covers on how to do that as well. You can select up to 5 jobs, 5 AFSCs. You don't have to, but you can. I would recommend that you do, so that way you get at least one of the 5 that are listed who have openings. You have to have retainability. In other words, if the Air Force is going to train you, they want a return on their investment where they're getting some time back from you doing that job. First Term Airman is the program that I used to retrain, and the most important thing for you is to be educated. Second is to know when your window opens and closes, because once it closes, if you haven't applied, you're done, at least for that program. If you signed up for 4 years, your window opens on the first day of the 35th month of your enlistment, and then it's going to close by the 43rd month of your enlistment. If you signed up for 6 years, you have to wait a little bit longer. Your window opens on the 59th month of your enlistment, and it closes on the 67th month of your 6-year enlistment. So make sure you know how many months you have in, when your window opens and closes. For you to be competitive, they're going to look aboard at your enlisted performance reports, your EPRs, your date of rank. They're going to look at how much time you have in the Air Force, and they're also going to review your aptitude qualification examination score, which to me is your Asvab, which is composed of electrical, mechanical, administrative, general, or combination. They're going to make sure that you are placed where your strengths are. You're going to have 3 months, 3 times to be selected. My example is I applied the first time, the first month I was not selected. The second month I was not selected. Finally, the 3rd month I was selected. So I was lucky to get that. My roommate was security forces, and him and I were talking last night, and he retrained into personnel as well. And I asked him, why did you leave security forces? He said long hours. It wasn't what he wanted to do. He used the First Term Airman retraining program just like I did. Now, if you're an NCO, let's just say you are in your 2nd enlistment, or 3rd or 4th, beyond your 1st. You can also retrain. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I'm going to tell you that the AFI covers that as well, especially Section 5.2. And there are 2 phases of retraining for NCO if you're a career status, not career status, but career airman. The first one is voluntary. You want to retrain into something that has openings. You apply for that. The second is involuntary. When I was a firefighter, there was a master sergeant who loved being a firefighter, and he was involuntarily retrained into another career field. He wasn't happy about that, but he had to do it. The good news is eventually he became a chief. I looked him up, and he was back in the fire department. So when he retrained, it was temporary. He went back to the fire department. Another part of retraining is humanitarian retraining. An example that I have is when I retrained into personnel a few months later, there was a knock on the door. We opened it because it was a secure area, and they said, hey, this is Master Sergeant so-and-so, and he is a humanitarian retrainee. He's here, and we need you to train him. He's going to be in charge of you and this office. And we did. Humanitarian means he had someone close to that vicinity where we were stationed because he PCS'd. He moved to that base for the reason that there was a family member, most likely a parent, that was very ill, and they needed him to be closer to home to help with the medical, something like that. So that doesn't happen often, but it has to be approved. And that the goal of that is to put you closer to that family member, usually a parent or a child. If you have an uncle who's very ill, most likely that person will not qualify for you to move into a new location and a new job. So the next thing that I want to talk about is special duties. Before I do that, remember, read the Air Force instruction that I'll put in the description below. That talks about what you can do and can't do with this program. Next is special duty. Special duty is you can leave your job for a certain amount of time, whether it's 2 years or 3 years, and you do something else. On my board here, I'm going to give you some examples. I have an example where I left personnel to go do equal opportunity for 3 years, and it involved a tech school. And then eventually, after those 3 years, I went back to personnel where I am now. Here's a list. Let's say you want to become an ROTC instructor. If you're an officer, you can do that. Professional military instructor is for enlisted and officers. That could be Airman Leadership School, NCO Academy, Senior NCO Academy. That could be Squadron Officer School, Air Command and Staff College, and so forth. So these are things that you do for a few years. This one is a great job. I actually want to make a video about this in a different video. First Sergeant, because that's something that I was very interested when I was enlisted. MTI, Military Training Instructor, you can do that for a few years, equal opportunity. There's an airman here who worked for 4 months in the Honor Guard. That was his job, and now he's back. Or you could also be a recruiter for a few years if you're interested. There are many special duty jobs out there. You just have to see what you're interested in and hope that you get selected. The other thing is you have to be competitive. In other words, your record has to be good. That's like I always tell people, do the best job that you can do. Be an airman of all ranks who is consistent, who is quality, who can do, and the record speaks for itself. Even if you think you're going to get out, because I thought I was going to get out until I realized, hey, I can retrain. And that changed my decision to stay in the Air Force. Act as if you're going to stay in, and don't tell people, oh, I want to get out after 4 years like I did, because it'll tell others that you're not interested in the Air Force, and if there's an opportunity, you won't get it because you're going to get out. And then I changed my mind. So don't tell people that you want to get out. Act as, you don't have to tell them anything. Act as if you're going to stay in, but if you decide to get out, that's fine, that's your choice. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for asking the question. St. Peter boys, I'd like to answer questions, especially if it's something that I know about. If not, I'll do the research. Have a great day. Do what's best for you. Take care.